happy Gaura Purnima to everyone. We are very fortunate today that His Grace Amarendra Prabhuji is with us on the Sravan Utsav. Amarendra Prabhuji is in front of him, I don't want to say, but he is world famous. And anyone who has been in ISKCON even for a little while would have definitely heard lectures from Amarendra Prabhuji. But those who are here for the first time and are going to hear from Amarendra Prabhu for the first time, a brief introduction about Prabhuji. Prabhuji has done masters in electrical engineering from University of Massachusetts in USA. He has also done his MBA in IT management from University of Minnesota from USA. And he has been instrumental in organizing and participating in synthesis of science and religion, and also interfaith harmony under the auspices of Bhaktivedanta Institute. In childhood, Prabhuji has received gold medals in 6 consecutive years in inter-school Sanskrit competition. And that we can clearly see when he quotes various verses from various scriptures, and his wonderful pronunciation, all of that is very visible from it. In the 10th standard, Prabhuji stood 2nd in Sanskrit in Mumbai board. Prabhuji also played chess at state level, and he has won numerous trophies in dramatics and script writing as well. He started preaching at the age of 12, and he completed his Bhakti Shastri at the age of 19. At the age of 27, now Prabhuji is around 30, but by the age of 27, he had traveled 75 cities in the world, including in countries like India, USA, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Middle East, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and so many other places he had visited, and he has preached. He has given talks on spiritual subjects in universities such as MIT, Harvard, and many multinational companies around the world. Prabhuji is a grand disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He is a disciple of His Holiness Radha Govinda Swami Maharaj. And Maharaj instructed Prabhuji in 2016 to preach Srimad Bhagavatam in English. Since then, Prabhuji is traveling while also completing, at that time, his MBA. He has completed it now. Prabhuji is multi-talented. He has love for the Lord. He is very, very learned in Shastras. He is very eloquent speaker of Shastras. He sings very melodiously. He plays various musical instruments. He is an excellent actor. He is very kind. And even after all of this, he is very humble and very friendly. And the love for the Lord that he has, and love for preaching, and the love for the instruction that he has received from his spiritual master is visible from the fact that he is actually giving this lecture at 3:30 in the morning in Atlanta, where he is currently. And when I actually asked Prabhuji that, normally our lecture is at 6:30 in New Zealand time, and that would have been 1:30 in the morning for him. And I said that this is going to be really, really hard for me to ask you, but this is the Sravan Utsav that is going on. Will you be able to do? And he immediately agreed. He said, yes, Prabhuji, 1:30 in the morning, that's fine. Let's actually let it be okay or good time for the devotees in New Zealand. But then we somehow or the other adjusted to 8:30 so that it will be a little bit okay for Prabhuji. He will get a little bit of sleep, some extra sleep. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. You're showing us by your example that no matter what is the time, everyone should be ready for service. So thank you very much. Let's welcome Prabhuji by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Prabhuji is going to speak on Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is doing Gaura Katha today at 8:30, which is now, and tomorrow as well. He is going to be here and going to be continuing on his Gaura Katha. So I'll pass it on to Amarendra Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for kindly inviting me, dear Ambarish Maharaj Prabhu, and to all the wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis on the call. Thank you for kindly participating. Thank you for having me amidst all of you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyayascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So very quickly, we will chant the Mangalacharana prayers and then we will get started. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Ananda Leela Maya Vigrahaya Hemava Divya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Today is the most auspicious occasion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance on the occasion of Sri Gaura Purnima or Gaur Avirbhav Mahamahotsav. I feel very, very fortunate and very privileged to be amidst Gaur Priyajan, which means the dear associates and the dear devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Today we are going to discuss something very deep and something very important, straight from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we have to be very, very attentive because Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he has given a lot of nectar in very few words. So my request is, let us all pay complete attention to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's words. All of us are listeners. All of us are the Shrota. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the Pravakta. He is the speaker. We are all listening to his words. Srila Jagadananda Pandit, a dear associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's an incarnation of Satyabhama Devi in Sri Krishna Leela, has said something very beautiful in a book called as the Prem Vivarta. He says, Gaura Rami mukhe balile nahi chale, Gaurar achar gaurar vichar, loile phal phale. What does this mean? Gaurar ami mukhe balile nahi chale. Oh, just by saying, I am Gaudiya Vaishnav, I am Gaudiya Vaishnav. Mukhe bolile nahi chale. Just by speaking it through the tongue, oh, nobody becomes Gaudiya Vaishnav like that. Just by saying, oh, I belong to Sri Chaitanya, Gaurar Ami, I belong to Gauranga, I belong to Gauranga, mukhe bolile nahi chale. Just by saying that through the tongue, it's not sufficient. Then what is the qualification? Gaurar achar, gaurar bichar, loile phale phale. The fruit of being a Gaudiya Vaishnav will actually fructify, which means we will receive love of Godhead. We will receive Parabhakti, the highest form of bhakti, only if two things are followed. Gaurar achar and gaurar vichar. What does gaurar achar mean? Gaurar achar means the etiquette, the practice, the personal conduct of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplified devotional service. The way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu served the Vaishnavas. The way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted the holy names. The way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remembered the Supreme Lord. The way he worshipped his mother. The way and how intensely he punished those who were criticizing the Vaishnavas. All of these principles are called Gaurar Achar, which means the personal conduct of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the second is Gaurar Vichar, the instructions, the thought process of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Till the time we don't follow the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, till the time we don't practice the conduct of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can't just say, I am Gaudiya Vaishnava, I am part of ISKCON, or I am follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on my altar, so I will get love of God. It doesn't work like that. Very important verse. Gaurar ami mukhe bolile nahi chale. केवल मुख से मैं गौर का हूं ये बोलने से नहीं चलेगा. ऐसे हिंदी का भाषांतर है उसका. The Hindi translation of that is just by saying that I belong to Gauranga, I belong to Gauranga. It doesn't work like that. If we don't follow his instructions, what is the use? Mahaprabhu gave a few instructions. The first instruction Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave is Jodi tumi rakte chaho Gaurangera sone choto Hari Daser katha thake jeno mane. This also comes from Prem Vivarta by Jagadananda Pandit, which means that if you want Jadi tumi rakte chaho Gaurangera sone, if you want Mahaprabhu to keep you at your lotus feet, Jagadananda Pandit is speaking to all of us. If you want Mahaprabhu to keep you at his lotus feet, Choto Haridaser Kotha Thake Jeno Mane, then remember the pastime of Chota Haridas very, very seriously. Which means if we are very frivolous in our dealings with the opposite sex, if we like to cut jokes and very freely mix with women as man, or with men as being a woman, then you will not get Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu gives mercy only to those who properly follow conduct. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very beautiful example to illustrate this point. Srila Sanatana Goswami was invited to have prasadam with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was waiting, but Srila Sanatana Goswami did not come. And finally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu honored Jagannath Mahaprasad. And then by the time Sanatana Goswami reached to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal servant Govinda, he announced to Sanatana Goswami, "Oh Sanatan, our Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu waited for you to have lunch prasadam together. But because you didn't come on time, he has already had prasadam and he's gone off to sleep." Because Mahaprabhu takes 30 minutes of power nap in the afternoon, not more, not less. Nowadays, there is a scientific research about how a 30-minute power nap in the afternoon boosts up the attention of the living being or the individual throughout the day. If it's more than that, the person becomes lazy. If it's less than that, the person becomes agitated. But our Shachinandan Gaurahari, our Nimai Pandit took 30-minute power naps even 500 years ago. So Govinda Das he told Sri Chaitanya, Srila Sanatana Goswami about this. And Srila Sanatana Goswami waited. But as soon as Mahaprabhu got to know that his beloved Sanatana Goswami is here, Mahaprabhu woke up. Because what wakes up the Lord from Yoga Nidra is the sincerity of a devotee. You can see the Supreme Lord was in Yoga Nidra, and it was Advaita Acharya's calling that woke him up as Mahavishnu from Vaikuntha. Mother Yashoda was churning butter, and her child Krishna, who was actually in Yoga Nidra in the next room, woke up in Damodar Leela, and he came searching for his mother. And he came and held the churning rod of Mother Yashoda to tell Mother Yashoda this, that any devotee who wakes up in Brahma Muhurta and all alone keeps churning the pot of Shastra like you are doing, which means studying the Shastra and chanting the holy name, I personally will give up my Yoga Nidra sleep and go there and give them darshan. So Krishna came and gave darshan to Mother Yashoda in the first verse of Damodar Leela. Ekada grihadasishu Yashoda Nanda Gehni Karmantara Niyuktasu Nirmamantha Swayam Dadhi Yani Hagitani Tad Bala Charitani Cha Dadhi Nirmantane Kali Smaranti Tanya Gayata. Mother Yashoda was churning, and Krishna came and held the butter pot churning rod to tell Mother Yashoda that anyone who wakes up early, like you have done, O Mother, and they're churning the pot of Shastra, which means, what is the essence of Shastra? What is the butter on the pot of the Shastra? The chanting of the holy name. If someone wakes up early in the morning and churns the essence of the Shastra, which is studying the Shastra and chanting the holy name, then I personally give up my sleep and go there. Yatra gayanti mad bhaktaha tatra tisthami narada. I will go and give darshan. But when I am standing in front of them, and instead of serving me, if they continue to chant the Shastra, which means the essence of Shastra is to find Krishna, but once you've found Krishna, you have to serve him. But instead, you make Krishna stand and then you continue to chant and read Shastra. Then what does Krishna do? He comes and holds the stick, which means give up your study now. The purpose of studying is to see me. Now that I have come, you just serve me. So like that, many secrets of Damodar Leela are there. The point we were making is when the devotee is ready and sincerely seeking out the presence of the Supreme Lord, then the Lord is appearing. For Mother Yashoda, for Advaita Acharya in Navadvip, and here in Jagannath Puri, for the pleasure and for the sake of Srila Sanatana Goswami. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he woke up from his sleep and he embraced Sanatana Goswami. And he asked Srila Sanatana Goswami, "Oh Sanatan, I was waiting for you so that we can sit and have prasadam together. What made you come late?" So Srila Sanatana Goswami said, "My Lord, please forgive me. I tried to come as fast as I could." So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "But you are living at Siddha Bakul, which is the place of Haridas Thakur." You see, Haridas Thakur was the greatest chanter of the holy names. And in his small little cottage at Siddha Bakul, there was Sanatana Goswami, there was Rupa Goswami, there was Haridas Thakur. Why were they all living there? Because they were not given entry into the main temple of Jagannath. The temple of Jagannath has a rule that only those who are Hindus can enter. But you know, Srila Haridas Thakur was not born as a Hindu. So he was the greatest Vaishnav. But unfortunately, he was not born in a Hindu family. So they didn't let him enter the temple. But because he was such a great Vaishnav, for others, they had to enter the temple to see Jagannath. But because he was sitting and chanting the holy name, Jagannath in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to give darshan. Or we could even venture to say, Jagannath went in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to have darshan of Haridas Thakur at Siddha Bakul. And Siddha Bakul is also the place where Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami lived with Haridas Thakur. Why? They were very exalted Saraswat Brahmanas from Karnataka, Rupa and Sanatana. Their names at birth were Amar and Santosh. Amar is Rupa Goswami and Santosh is Sanatana Goswami. So I remember when I received my Harinam and I received the name Amarendra Das, I was very curious to know what is the meaning of the word Amarendra. So I asked different devotees, senior Vaishnavas, and they all gave me different answers. One devotee told me the word Amara means immortality. And who are immortals? The demigods are immortals. And Indra is the best among them. So Amarendra refers to Lord Indra because he's the best among the immortals. And Das means servant. So I respected this opinion, but I was not completely satisfied that the name that I received at Harinam, which should mean I am the servant of Indra, who's the best among demigods. Then when I asked another devotee, you see, depending on the adhikar, they were giving me different answers. So another devotee told me, Amara means demigod, but Indra means best. So the topmost leader of all demigods is Vishnu. So this is service to his lotus feet. I was okay with that too. But then I was thinking, Iha bahi age kaho ar. You know, this is external, like Rupa like Mahaprabhu tells Ramanandara, yes, this is good, but please continue. Then finally one devotee told me something which I really loved. He said, the word Amar is actually the name of Rupa Goswami. Because Rupa Goswami's appearance name was Amar. And Srila Sanatana Goswami's appearance name was Santosh. So Amar means Rupa Goswami. And Indra means the Lord. And who's the Lord of Rupa Goswami? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Das means servant. So he said, oh, then the name that you've been given by your Guru Maharaj means the servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Lord of Rupa Goswami. I said, thank you very much. So anyway, the point is, Srila Rupa Goswami's name was Amar. and Srila Sanatana Goswami's name was Santosh. So both of them, although they were very high class Saraswat Brahmanas from Karnataka, because they served under a king who was very atrocious in his behavior, a Muslim king who was killing Brahmanas, who was killing the cows, and he was tormenting the Hindu culture. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they kind of were subordinate to this king and giving him some sane intelligence, as a result of which the king was not breaking principles, and because he respected Rupa and Sanatana. As a result, what happened was the king kind of gave initiation to Rupa and Sanatana in a perverted, reflected manner. Instead of giving them spiritual names, he called them Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. So they got like some political names because of their position. Now, because of this, the society in general knew them as Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik and associated them to the Islamic line of the non-Hindu culture or tradition. As a result, Rupa and Sanatana were also forbidden from entering the Jagannath temple. So we know birds of the same feather flock together. So Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Haridas Thakur, all of them were not let inside the temple. So I sometimes, when I'm talking to kids, I joke and I say, you know why they were not given entrance into the temple? Because they were all outstanding. So Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Haridas Thakur, they were all outstanding. They were standing outside the temple. And this was Siddha Bakul. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, a very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, would say, actually, this Siddha Bakul was preparation for the incorporation of ISKCON. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that our Srila Prabhupada would preach far and wide in all countries and in all castes and everyone from all religions possible. As a result, not all of them will be allowed into the temple. So they will have to take darshan of Mahaprabhu from Siddha Bakul, just like Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami did. So our sampradaya, our ISKCON sampradaya, many of us may not be able to go inside the temple, but no harm. We are taking shelter of Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami, the place where the Lord himself came with his plate of Mahaprasad. So we don't have to worry if we can't enter the temple. We take shelter of Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami. So Srila Sanatana Goswami told Mahaprabhu, well, I'm living at Siddha Bakul. So Mahaprabhu said, that's even more intriguing and perplexing, because from the Siddha Bakul to the Gambhira where I am, it's not that far away. So why did it take such a long time for you? So Srila Sanatana Goswami did not say anything. He put his head down and he said, my Lord, I am very sorry. Mahaprabhu understood that Sanatana Goswami, being a very great Vaishnava, he's trying to hide something. So Mahaprabhu, being Nimai Pandit, he tried to interrogate in a very transcendental way. He said, Srila Sanatana Goswami, please tell me, which path did you take? There are two paths in coming to my residence from the place where you are living. There's a straighter path through the Jagannath temple, and there's another path which moves through the ocean beach, the ocean shore, and then that comes. This one is the faster one, that one is a longer route. You please tell me, which one did you take? Srila Sanatana Goswami said, well, my Lord, I took the longer route. I came through the ocean shore. Mahaprabhu said, can you show me your feet? And Sanatana Goswami showed the feet, his lotus feet. Srila Sanatana Goswami's body were filled with pus and open wound. And this was there for a long, long time. This wasn't because of the travel, but because this was there for a long time. So Mahaprabhu said, oh Sanatan, your whole body is filled with open wounds. The only part of your body which was proper, which was healthy, and which was protected was the sole of your lotus feet. And now look at you, because it's the afternoon time in the summer season, and the beach, the ocean shore is piping hot. It's very, very hot. And you have walked for such a long time through that path. The only part of your body which was protected, which is the sole of your feet, have now developed blisters, and they have become red. They have become hurt because of the heat that has been, or the sand particles, which has been the hot sand particles, which has been touching your lotus feet. You could have come the straight path. Why did you take such a long, elongated, path which delayed the whole process? Srila Sanatana Goswami spoke. You see, Srila Sanatana Goswami is the most qualified, very, very qualified. But Vidya Vinayena Shobhate. The more once the consciousness, the lotus of our consciousness opens up and blossoms in devotion, to that extent, it's filled with the nectar of humility, natural humility. Sometimes we think humility means to bend in a certain way, to fold our palms in a certain way, and saying, Dandavat Pranam, Panchanga Pranam, Ashtanga Pranam, I am your servant, I am the servant of your servants, I am touching your lotus feet, please accept my humble obeisances. Even while writing email, we'll say, please accept my humble obeisances. And at the end, we will say, you're aspiring humble servant. But in the middle part of the email, there's dishum dishum, you know. Initially, there's some obeisances, and the end, there's some obeisances. But in the middle portion, you know, we say what we have to or what we want to. But this is not humility. Humility means to always understand that I am insignificant in comparison to the Vaishnav that I am meeting. The Vaishnav whom I am meeting and interacting is filled with all good qualities. I am filled with so many shortcomings because of lack of devotion. But the Vaishnava or the Vaishnavi that I'm interacting with is filled with all good qualities. I am not able to see all of them, but I'm able to see most of them. And I am praying that may a drop of those qualities touch my heart as well. To always see everyone in connection to their true nature is humility. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he knew Srila Sanatana Goswami is the embodiment of all humility. And he's like Chandan, he's like a stick of sandalwood. And Mahaprabhu, by his repeated questions, was rubbing this sandalwood. Because when you rub sandalwood stick, what happens? Only fragrance comes out. So Sanatana Goswami's consciousness is like a stick of sandalwood. And Mahaprabhu, through his questions, was actually rubbing it hard and vigorously. And as a result, the sweet fragrance of Sanatana Goswami's devotional humility was coming out. Srila Sanatana Goswami said, my Lord, I could have come the straighter path from Siddha Bakul to the Gambhira through the temple of Jagannath. But there is a big problem with that. The big problem is there are devotees going back and forth on that path. Those who have taken darshan of Jagannath, who are coming out, and those who are about to enter the temple and take darshan of Jagannath. So when my body, which is filled with pus and open wounds and sore, when it touches their body, either they're coming out of the temple and they're carrying the prasadi garlands of the Lord, or they're carrying some flower of the Lord, or some are carrying some prasadam of the Lord. And when I touch them, I contaminate their presence. Or those who are about to enter the temple, they're carrying bhoga. They're carrying not nirmalya, but bhoga, that padartha which is worthy of being offered to Jagannath. And by touching, I contaminate all of them. I contaminate in two ways. One, because I have served a very low-class master in the form of Maharaj Nawab Hussain Shah, who's been tormenting the Vaishnavas and eating cow flesh. And I've been serving him. But we want to specify very clearly and clarify this, that Srila Sanatana Goswami was not serving Nawab Hussain Shah in the attempt of what Nawab Hussain Shah wanted to do. But Sanatana Goswami was serving Nawab Hussain Shah like a steering wheel in the hands of a driver. The steering wheel sometimes will just move and the car will have a crash. But when the driver sits in, you can take the car to its right place. So Nawab Hussain Shah, whose mind was agitated in propagating Islam by destroying other cultures, Srila Sanatana Goswami, being a very wonderful, wonderful minister, was giving him sane intelligence that you don't have to do this. So he was actually guiding Nawab Hussain Shah and naturally the whole society to intelligence. But Sanatana Goswami in his humility is saying, I have been serving him, therefore I'm very sinful. And at the same time, my body is dirty, is filled with so many obnoxious substances. So in either way, if anybody touches my body, they will become putrefied, they will become contaminated. And I don't want this. So those who are entering will get contaminated. Those who have entered out or exited out of the temple, they will be contaminated. The pujaris who are going to go and touch the deity of the Lord, They may be walking on that path. And if I accidentally touch them, I anyway can't enter the temple. At least I should not contaminate those who can. So instead of coming straight, I took that path from the ocean shore. And as a result, my Lord, I became late. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at the feet of Sanatana Goswami. His feet was red, completely filled with blisters because of that heat of the summer afternoon. And at the same time, he saw genuine tears of repentance in the eyes of Srila Sanatana Goswami, that my Lord, please forgive me. I couldn't come on time and I made you wait. I am such a sinner. I'm such a great offender. The Lord wants to, everybody wants to offer bhoga to Krishna and accept prasad. Here, Krishna himself wants to accept prasad in the presence of the devotee, and the devotee, Srila Sanatana Goswami, in humility, he's saying, my Lord, instead of coming on time, I made you wait. What kind of devotee am I? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Sanatana Goswami. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Mahaprabhu told Srila Sanatana Goswami, Jadyapi tumi hoye jagata pavan, tuma sparsha pavitra hoye deva muni gana, tathapi bhaktera swabhav maryada rakshan, maryada palana hoye sadhura bhushan. Look at the poetry of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Mahaprabhu told Srila Sanatana Goswami, Jadyapi tumi hoye jagata pavan. First of all, Sanatana Goswami, I want to clarify. You are saying that you are very contaminated and you can contaminate others? No, 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 no. I totally disagree to this. Jadyapi tumi hoy jagata pavan. You are so pure that you can purify the whole world. And not just the whole world. Tumas sparsha pavitra hoy deva munigan. Even demigods, even great rishis. What to speak of human beings? Celestial beings come in human form only to touch your lotus feet and become purified. Was Mahaprabhu over-exaggerating? No, this was actually the truth. And the example for that is, Srila Sanatana Goswami, he lived at Govardhan later in his life. After Mahaprabhu's departure, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami moved to Vrindavan. And Srila Sanatana Goswami lived at Govardhan, at a place called as Chakratirtha. Chakratirtha is the place where during the Govardhan Leela, all the Brajbasis under the hill, they were feeling very cold because there's constant rain. They're standing under the hill. Krishna's holding Giriraj. As Giriraj, he's holding Govardhan. and it's raining profusely. Indra is tormenting the Brajbasis with 7 days and 7 nights of rain shower. As a result, the friends were feeling very cold. The Gopas, Gopis were all feeling very cold. So they told Krishna, is there a natural heater around? Can you heat up the whole place? Krishna said, sure, let me invite Sudarshan Chakra. So Krishna invoked the Sudarshan Chakra from Vaikuntha and told Sudarshan Chakra, your only service is to continuously do Govardhan Parikrama. So you have to keep spinning around Giriraj. You will get the service of doing Giriraj Govardhan Parikrama. So the Sudarshan Chakra said, sure, I'm always in Vaikuntha where there is no Govardhan and there's no Jamuna. So now you're giving me a chance, I will do Parikrama. So Sudarshan Chakra went around at blitzing speed around Giriraj Govardhan hill. And as a result, the water was becoming dry and everyone felt the warmth under Govardhan hill. So after the pastime, Krishna told Sudarshan Chakra, wonderful, you did very nice service, now you can go back to Vaikuntha. So Sudarshan Chakra told Krishna, this is not fair. You call me from Vaikuntha to Vrindavan for service. And when you're happy with my service, you send me back to Vaikuntha. I have read the Bhagavad Gita as it is, O Krishna. Please don't cheat me. You have said there that Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatva na nivartante tad dhamam paramam mama. That my abode is such that once you come here, you will never return. So reading this verse, I have come to Vrindavan. Now you please don't send me back to Vaikuntha. Krishna smiled and he said, okay, I will give you a place. I will give you an eternal permanent place at the foothill of Giriraj Govardhan, in the area of Govardhan, in the district of Govardhan. And wherever the Sudarshan Chakra situated himself, that place was called Chakratirtha. So Srila Sanatana Goswami, he lived his life at Chakratirtha. And he would chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So when he lived at Chakratirtha, that is also the place where Ganga Devi manifested. There's another beautiful pastime where Nanda Maharaj once heard about the glories of Ganga Devi in Vrindavan. And he heard about how one time Garuda was carrying a snake for Mahaprasade Govinde, because that's what Garuda eats. He eats snakes. So he was carrying a snake. And as Garuda was carrying a snake, the tip of the snake, the tail of the snake, touched the upper waters of Ganga at Haridwar. And as a result, as soon as the tip of the tail of the snake touched the upper water surface of Ganga Devi at Haridwar, immediately the snake became a four-handed associate of Mahavishnu and went back to Vaikuntha. So Garuda, who caught the snake to eat the snake, as soon as the tip of that body of the snake touched the upper waters of Ganga, the snake became a four-handed associate. And instead of being on Garuda's beak, now that four-handed Vishnu associate got on the back, and Garuda took that same associate back to Vaikuntha. So when Nanda Maharaj heard this katha, he told Krishna, I am going to Haridwar and I will take bath in Ganga. So Krishna said, well, why do you want to leave Vrindavan, dear Baba? Dear Nanda Baba, why do you want to, Pitaji, why do you want to leave Vrindavan and go to Haridwar? So Nanda Baba said, because there is Yamuna here, but there's no Ganga here. Krishna said, of course there's Ganga here. Krishna was making it up. he didn't want his father to leave Vrindavan. Vrindavanam parityajya padam ekam na gacchati. Krishna's rule is that neither should I, nor should my associates ever leave Vrindavan. So he was trying his best to stop his father leave Vrindavan. So Nanda Baba said, if you show me where there is Ganga in Vrindavan, I promise you I will not leave. So Krishna got Nanda Baba to Chakratirtha. And out of his mind, he invoked Ganga Devi. Therefore, that Ganga Devi is called Manasi Ganga at Govardhan, because Ganga appeared from the mind or manas of Krishna. So at Chakratirtha, where the foothill of Govardhan, where there is Manasi Ganga, we also know wherever there is Ganga, Ganga is on the head of Lord Shiva. So you see, so many pastimes are coming together. Siddhanta means it moves like waves. Jao Bhagavata Pado Vaishnavera Sthane, Ekanta Ashraya Karo Caitanya Charane, Chaitanyera Bhakta Gana Nitya Karo Sangha, Tathapi Janiya Siddhanta Samudra Taranga. Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami has described. Only when we take shelter of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu and his associates and his dear Vaishnava devotees, can we see that Siddhanta, or all philosophical truths, which seem very dry like wood in the Upanishads, they are now moving like the waves on the ocean of rasa. So we see so many pastimes are coming together. So we know that Ganga Devi is on the head of Lord Shiva all the time. Varanasi Purapatim Bhaja Vishwanatham. Ganga Taranga Ramaniya Jatakalapam. Gauri Nirantara Vibhushita Vamabhagam. Right? Ganga Devi is always on the head of Lord Shiva. So now if Manasi Ganga is here, Shivji must be somewhere close by. And surely enough, that Shivji who manifested at Chakratirtha was called Chakreshwar Mahadev. Chakreshwar Mahadev. He whose Lord is Chakratirtha. So he appeared there. But however, in Braj Bhasha, you know, with time the words get little tempered. So Chakreshwar Mahadev with time has now become Chakleshwar Mahadev. Chakleshwar. And Chakleshwar Mahadev with time has become Chakleshwar Baba. And that with time has become Baba. So if you go to Chakratirtha and you say, oh, Baba ke darshan ke liye kahan jana hai? Bole, yahan chale jao. Yahi Baba baithe hain. Kaun se Baba? Chakreshwar Baba. Unka naam hai Chakleshwar Mahadev, Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva, he personally came and lived at Chakratirtha. Srila Sanatana Goswami used to chant japa there. And one fine day, Srila Sanatana Goswami was sitting and chanting japa. There were so many mosquitoes troubling him. So Srila Sanatana Goswami made a plan that I will leave this place. This place is not conducive for bhajan. So Lord Shiva came in the dream and he said, I have left Kailas only to come here to sit and hear your chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Lord Shiva said, not just me, demigods come in human forms to take association of your lotus feet. They come here only to interact with you and hear the chanting of your pure holy name. So I have, Mother Parvati is there in Kailas. I have left her only to come and sit and hear your chanting. So if you leave this place, then how will I hear your chanting? But I know you have concerns with the mosquito. Lord Shiva said in the dream, don't worry. I will go to the demigod in charge of mosquito, the department of mosquitoes, and I will tell that demigod to do something. You will find it very, very astonishing that Lord Shiva wiped off the mosquitoes at that place and gave them another different place to do their bhajan. Even till this very day, you can find mosquitoes everywhere at Govardhan, but not at Chakratirtha, because it is Lord Shiva who made that arrangement so that Srila Sanatana Goswami can sit and chant japa. And Srila Sanatana Goswami continued to chant japa there, and Lord Shiva continued to live there, hearing the chanting of Srila Sanatana Goswami's pure vibrations of the holy name. So why did we mention all this? This is as praman to establish this fact that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami that Jadyapi tumi hoy jagata pavan, tumas parusha pavitra hoy deva munigan. That Srila Sanatana Goswami, you are so pure that you can purify the three worlds. And even demigods like Lord Shiva, they come to associate with you and they become purified by the touch of your transcendental body. You are saying by the touch of your body, people get contaminated? I totally refute this point. Jadyapi tumi hoy jagata pavan, tumas parsha pavitra hoy deva munigan. You are pure and all purifying, even for demigods. But Sanatan, I understand. Tathapi. Tathapi means, but I still understand. Although this is the fact, still, tathapi bhaktera swabhav maryada rakshana. Oh, but I understand. The nature of a Vaishnav is to always follow Vaishnav etiquette. The nature of a Vaishnav is to always follow the proper rules of conduct. A Vaishnav may be very advanced, but he never thinks he's very advanced. The tree which is full of fruits always bends by the weight of those fruits. So if a Vaishnava is full of the fruits of devotion, as the fruits of his devotional service in his heart becomes more and more ripened and juicy, the tree of his existence bends by the weight of those fruits of those qualities, which means to the extent a person practices the path of bhakti, to that extent he must become humble. If pride is increasing, which means something is going wrong. Krishna is giving a hint that yes, you're chanting more, you're hearing more, you're serving more, but something is going wrong. But if naturally we are able to see good qualities in others, we are not interested in seeing their faults. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very beautiful verse. This should be our Siddha mantra for life. Vaishnavera gunagrahi na dekhaye dosh, kaya mana vakya kare Vaishnava santosh. What does it mean? Vaishnavera gunagrahi. We want to only collect the good qualities in Vaishnavas and na dekhaye dosh. We don't want to see their faults. We don't want to see their faults. Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the Gaudiya Math once observed that amongst his disciples, there was some misunderstanding, miscommunication. And there were two camps. And one camp was criticizing the other camp. This camp was criticizing this camp. And Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur gave them a very beautiful example. He said, let's say you get a chance to become a waiter in a restaurant. Will you become? They said, sure, Gurudev, whatever you want us to do. He said, okay. What if you have to be in that restaurant as a waiter and you have to serve meat? And the interesting thing is you don't get paid for it. And that's not the instruction of your guru. Would you want to do it? They said, no, we will not do it. Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, why not? Carry the meat from one table to another as a waiter. You will not get paid for it. No salary. And I'm not instructing you to do that. You're doing it on your own. Will you do that? They said, no, it's a very bad thing to do. Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, carrying the meat as a waiter from one table to another is obnoxious, is bad, but it's worse to carry the meat of the dead meat or the apparent faults and offenses of Vaishnavas from one table to another without delivering it. You're keeping it in your heart and carrying it as a waiter. carrying the dead meat in the plate of your heart, of all the dirty, bad qualities and apparent flaws, which don't exist, but apparent, that which we think exists. From the heart of so many Vaishnavas, we are collecting and we are carrying it on the plate of our heart from one table to another in our life. Why do you want to do it? Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I, as the spiritual master, I have to see faults in my disciples to rectify. But you don't have to do it. I am not instructing you to do it. You don't have to carry the faults of others on the plate of your heart. Why do you do it? The waiter at least delivers it on the table and he leaves, but you are carrying it for so many days and so many weeks. What is the use? So Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no carrying flaws and faults of Vaishnavas. No need. If somebody is doing something wrong, it is between them and their spiritual superior. Who are we to say anything? Any distraction to seeing who is doing what is only distracting us away from our path. Our only intention should be, am I chanting properly? Am I serving properly? Is my mood of service better? Am I utilizing my time properly? Am I doing something wrong? Are my responses Vaishnav in all circumstances in life? Am I utilizing my time and not frivolously wasting? If these are the things, these are questions to introspect, then there is no time to look around to see who's doing what. But when we have no goal in our life, or we have a lot of time to gossip and criticize. So Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Vaishnavera gunagrahi na dekhaye dosh. Collect the good qualities in others and don't see their faults. Why don't see their faults? Mahaprabhu appeared on what day? Purnima. But please note, this Purnima took a long time to appear. It was first Amavasya, no moon. And after the whole waxing and waning process, then finally it became Purnima on a full moon. So it becomes Pratipad, first day, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, Panchami, Shashti, Saptami, Ashtami, Navami, Dashami, Ekadashi, Dwadashi, Trayodashi, Chaturdashi, then Purnima. So Vaishnavas are sometimes, apparently we may see them to be like no moon, which means no good qualities. But we must understand, in a matter of 15 days, that no moon will become full moon. They will become full moon and we will remain there, counting the spots on that full moon. Everybody is on their onward process. Some of us are Pratipad, first day of the blossoming of our consciousness is what I'm talking about. Some of us are at Panchami, some are at Shashti, some are Ashtami. Some pure Vaishnavas are like Ekadashi. And exalted Mahabhagavats are completely blossomed, Purnima. The consciousness has blossomed and become full moon. So we have to note that whom we are seeing today with full of faults, 5 lifetimes from now, maybe 10 lifetimes from now, they will become pure Vaishnavas. They will be walking on the planet, initiating others, giving shelter to others. And we will fall back on our consciousness and even go lower in our consciousness because of seeing faults in them. The only place, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, where it is okay to see the apparent wrongdoings and the offenses and correct, is if one is a spiritual superior and that too one is doing it without envy in their heart. It is not to settle scores. One must be a spiritual superior. That too, they must do that to their subordinate without any conception of envy. And that too, that subordinate must be eager to take it in the right perspective and implement in their life. If this combination is there, then it is okay. But if we see that the subordinate is not ready to take, then what is the point in saying? If the hunger is not there, why are you cooking chapan bhog and giving? If the hunger is not there, why are you cooking a chapan bhog? Which means, why are you giving advice when there is no hunger to learn from the subordinate? If the subordinate is ready to learn, the superior is ready to teach, but he's doing that with some envy in his heart. Because that person, that subordinate, I remember when he joined, how he was acting. He was acting as if he was very great. Now I will show him. If some competitive settling score mentality is there in the superior's heart, then he will fall down. In correcting also, he will fall down. It will not give the right result. And we can see so many examples for that. So anyway, the point is, Kaya Mana Vakya Kare Vaishnava Santosh. Through thought, word, and deed, we have to only act in a way by which we can give pleasure to others, to the Vaishnavas. Why should we, when we have the energy, the time, and the power to do good, why should we waste that in finding faults and criticizing and bad-mouthing? Our tongue is meant to vibrate the holy names of Radha and Krishna, not to vibrate the faults of others, which is temporary. Please note that the faults are temporary and the names of Krishna are eternal. When anyway you can vibrate the tongue, why not vibrate it with that which is permanent? And why waste our time with what is temporary, what is going to change? Tathapi bhaktera swabhav maryada rakshan. Mahaprabhu told Srila Sanatana Goswami, it is the nature of Vaishnavas to follow etiquette. You see, when there is a traffic light on the street, the cars and the bikes, they stop. But the airplane doesn't stop, right? The airplane takes off. The airplane takes off. If the driver of the car gets out of the car and expects the pilot to stop to the traffic lights on the street, then it's baseless. It doesn't make sense because the airplane takes off. It's an airplane, it's not a car. So sometimes we can see, this is an exception to the rule. Sometimes we can see very exalted, pure Vaishnavas. It may seem as if they are transgressing etiquette, but they are doing it because they are airplanes. They are airplanes, they are not cars. So we are all like cars and we have to follow the traffic light rules of Vaishnava etiquette. But sometimes we may see a very advanced Vaishnav, like Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj may chant japa in the toilet, in a public toilet, because he did not want anybody to come and trouble him while he's chanting japa, because he sat on the banks of the Ganga and people would come, kripa karo, please shower your mercy. And he found it to be a distraction. So he would go and sit in a stinking latrine, a public toilet, so that people won't come there. And he can sit and chant japa. And he would say, the stink of the toilet is better than the stink of materialistic people with bad intentions. They're coming and giving their stink here. No, that is worse. I will fall down in spiritual life. I don't want their association. Like Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj would chant in a toilet. Now, we can't do that. Does that mean he's breaking Vaishnava etiquette? No, that means he's an airplane and he's taking off and he doesn't have to stand for the traffic lights of normal rules like what's meant for us. So these exceptions to the rules are there. Sometimes you can find in the scriptures, Nityananda Prabhu. Prabhu kahe Nityananda kaha mora danda. Mahaprabhu is asking Nityananda Prabhu, where is my danda? Nityananda kahe tumar danda hoila tridanda. Your danda has become tridanda, because Nityananda Prabhu took that one sannyas danda of Mahaprabhu and broke it into three parts and threw it into the water. Now, if somebody even hears this in any sampradaya, that the Supreme Lord, Balaram, appears and he's breaking the danda of a sannyasi, that is Mahaprabhu's danda, they will think, what is going on? You're talking about Vaishnava etiquette, but the lords you're worshipping on the altar, that Nityananda Ram, he's breaking sannyas dandas. But we have to understand, Nita is an airplane. He's an airplane. He takes off. He doesn't walk on the streets like us. We are cars. We have to stop at the traffic lights of Vaishnava etiquette. But Nitai and Vamshidas Babaji and Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj and Rishabdev Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami, all these avaduts, they can take off as airplanes and there's no problem for that, right? So we're just making a side point. So Mahaprabhu said, Tathapi bhaktera swabhav maryada rakshan, maryada palan hoy sadhura bhushan. The ornament of a sadhu is following proper etiquette. So till the time we don't follow etiquette, sometimes in programs we see, we are sitting ahead in a Bhagavatam class when we know we have to leave the assembly in 15-20 minutes. We have to go somewhere. So the etiquette should be, we should sit close to the door, because we know that when we have to get up, it's easier to go from the door. But now if you go and sit ahead for those 15 minutes, what's going to happen? At the end of 15 minutes, you're going to get up and cut through the whole assembly with a crying baby in your hand. And the speaker who's trying to serve Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to serve the Vaishnavas, and all the Vaishnavas are now looking at what's happening here. What is happening? We are taking the attention of the speaker, the listener, and the whole assembly of Srimad Bhagavatam towards us. in just 15 minutes. So this is not proper conduct, not proper etiquette. When Vaishnavas are speaking, sometimes others are looking down at their phone and just looking up and saying, yeah. The main attention is on seeing the phone to see how many notifications are there. This is not proper etiquette. Why? Because when that Vaishnav chants japa, Krishna leaves everything and sits and listens to his japa. And when that Vaishnav talks to us, we are busy looking at the phone and all the notifications as if that Vaishnav doesn't matter to us. Therefore, Mahaprabhu has said, Prabhu kahe Vaishnav seva naam sankirtan, dui karo shigra pabe Krishnera charan. That if you chant the holy name and serve the Vaishnavas with proper Vaishnav etiquette at all times, then very soon we will get the mercy of Krishna. So Gaurar Rami mukhe bolile nahi chale. Gaurar achar, Gaurar vichar, loile phala phale. The fruit of being a Gaudiya Vaishnava will fructify, not just by saying that I belong to Mahaprabhu, but by actually following his instructions, following his etiquette, that the conduct that Mahaprabhu had. So this Gaura Purnima, our meditation is, yes, Mahaprabhu is none different from Radha Krishna. He's the Supreme Lord. That is the Tattva Vichar. Then there is the Lila Vichar, the perspective of the pastimes, where we relish so many pastimes. But apart from that, what is the call for action at the end of the class? So today's discussion, this Gaura Purnima, we take this vrat. We promise Mahaprabhu that I want to be a proper Gaudiya Vaishnav by following the rules of proper etiquette. The Gaudiya Vaishnav manual of the Vaishnav etiquette manual for Gaudiya Vaishnavas in ISKCON is available. So all of you can read and follow that at all times as much as possible, along with chanting the holy name and hearing Hari Katha, so that the true conceptions of Mahaprabhu's instructions and Mahaprabhu's conduct and the reciprocative etiquette is followed in life. So it's time up. I will pause here. And if there are any questions or suggestions or inputs or reflections, we will be very, very happy to take. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Shachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. What a wonderful story, wonderful katha. And not only we are hearing about Gaura Katha, but how the proper Gaudiya Vaishnava behavior has to be. And we all call ourselves Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and what we should be doing. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for highlighting that on this Gaura Purnima. And we are hoping that we will follow your example and try to learn some of the etiquettes from your Vani as well as from your behavior. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We will take some questions if devotees have, and by the time they are actually thinking about their questions, I will ask a question, Prabhuji, if you don't mind.
Please.
Prabhuji, we always say that when the Lord appears, we should not be following or we should not be imitating how the Lord is behaving. But whereas when the devotees appear, we should be actually looking at how they are behaving and then following in their footsteps, like Mahajana in a Gatasta Panto, that we say that Mahajana's footsteps we should be following. But at the same time, there are some Mahajanas, like some devotees, we also say that we should not be imitating or following in their footsteps because they are quite advanced, and as the example that you are giving of car and aeroplane. So how do we balance this, Prabhuji, that we have to follow the Mahajanas in their footsteps? At the same time, some of the Mahajanas we don't have to follow.
So there are different kinds of devotees at different consciousness. And these are the standard Mahajanas for everyone. So there are devotees who are Kanishtas, there are devotees who are Madhyamas, there are devotees who are Uttam. But all these Mahajans are always Uttam. So we have to take those aspects of these Uttamadhikari Mahabhagavats that we at the Kanishta state can relate to. Not take the Uttamadhikari aspect of the Uttamadhikaris and implement it on Kanishta Adhikaris in Kali Yuga. So we can accept the point of Lord Shiva chanting the holy name constantly, but not the aspect of Lord Shiva of drinking poison. We can accept that aspect of Brahmaji of obeying the Supreme Lord, meditating and creating as service, but maybe not the aspect of Brahmaji doubting Krishna's identity in Brahma Vimohan Leela. And who's going to decide what to take and what not to take? Our spiritual master. So just like Krishna is understood through the Mahajanas are understood through our Guru Pada Padma, the lotus feet of our Gurudev. So that's the bottleneck.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful answer. Thank you. Anyone else has any questions for Prabhuji?
I think the only question everyone had was, when is the class ending?
No. The devotees in Wellington, they are always eager to hear, and they can hear your katha for 2 hours as well, Prabhuji. If you want to continue for 1 more hour, they can sit there and hear Prabhuji.
That I will do when I come in person.
We are eagerly waiting for that. I hope that happens very soon. Now, just for information, Prabhuji, for those coming from US and UK, probably they are able to come without visa, I believe.
That's a big news.
Yes. Any other questions for Prabhuji? Yes, Pundrikaksha Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Happy Gaura Purnima to you. Thank you very much for your message, Prabhuji. Yeah, very nice lecture, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you're talking about not to see the faults, right? But depending on the devotee's level, so each devotee may be in different level, as you mentioned. So sometimes, even though we try to not to see the faults, but it might be hurting because of the mode of the material nature is working. So it might be bleeding, your heart will be bleeding. So when you take the chanting, and that is the place, the time when you're peaceful, at the time, immediately all the thoughts will come into the mind. So why this is happening, why it is happening, why this devotee has to, this is a great devotee, why he has to doing against these things with me, right? So how to come out of these thoughts, Prabhuji? Yeah, so the theory will be telling us, no, this is wrong, you should not do it. But mind is driving in other direction.
Very, very thought-provoked and experiential question. So this thing we must understand, that reactions from past life will come. We have been in this material world for such a long time, and sometimes we have slapped people without any reason. Sometimes we have manipulated situations. Sometimes we have lied to them. Sometimes we have gotten glorified for things that we are not worthy of. So some reactions will come. And where the reactions will come from, it's not going to come from the roof. It's going to come through people that we surround ourselves around, right? So if you keep ourselves in association of non-devotees, then who's going to give the reactions? The non-devotees are going to give the reactions. And if you always keep yourself in devotee association, then who's going to give the reactions? The devotees are going to give it. It's not that the devotees are giving it. They are being via medium instruments for the karma which is going to come to us. So if we would have been living in a non-devotee karmi background, then those non-devotee karmi association will give us those reactions. And if we surround ourselves with devotees, even if they're sincere devotees, the reaction is going to come through them, because it's going to come to us through people around us. In the section of Gajendra Stuti, very specifically in the 4th chapter of the 8th canto, Srila Prabhupada gives a brilliant purport. Brilliant. I feel like every Vaishnava should laminate and keep that purport on their study table. Of course, every purport of Srila Prabhupada is magical. The more deeply we study Prabhupada's books, the appreciation of what Prabhupada is trying to say directly through that purport and indirectly through the, like reading between the lines, it's fabulous. It's really fabulous. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the pastime of Gajendra teaches us how to deal with reversals in life. You see, Gajendra was cursed in his past life, and then he became an elephant. Similarly, the Gandharva Huhu was cursed, and then he became the crocodile. And now both of them, they're living their lives, cursed lives. Actually, it's blessed lives, but the lives which were the after effect of a curse. Let's put it like that. And there also you see that the crocodile is holding the feet of Gajendra. And now Gajendra calls out to the Supreme Lord and Krishna comes, Mahavishnu comes. So Prabhupada mentions a few points. He said, point number one, we should always introspect and tell ourselves that the reversals that are coming in life are not because of the person who's doing it, but they are just being instruments to our own karma. It's like, let's say if I don't have a bottle here, but let's say I take a glass bottle and I hit my head and then I complain, this bottle is misbehaving. It's giving me so much pain. But you will say, this fellow is so foolish. He's blaming the bottle, but behind the bottle is his own hand. So similarly, people around us are like glass bottles, and we may sometimes get pricked by their interaction, but we must note that they are not giving the pain. Behind them are my own hands from past life. This is the first point. Second point, whatever I am destined to get, Krishna is not giving me even 50% of that. Krishna is very kind, very, very kind. And third point, the situation is orchestrated in such a way that if I remember Krishna, then I'm making the best use of the bad bargain. That situation can either bring me down in consciousness or elevate me up in consciousness. So that situation is created so that there is agitation in the heart. And from an agitated heart, you can call out to Krishna with all your heart. We can see for ourselves when there's happiness and there's success, you can call out to Krishna. Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shribhi Edamanam Madapuman Naivarhati Abhidhatum Vaitwam Akinchana Gocharam. Queen Kunti has said, on a happy heart, you can call out to Krishna completely. But when there's distress in the heart, we can call out to Krishna with all our heart. So either you can criticize the person, blame, and gain for some sympathy with all our heart, or we can call out to Krishna and beg for shelter with all our heart. Depending on what we do, either we go down in consciousness and fail the test that Krishna puts us through, or we elevate in consciousness and pass the test that Krishna has given us. And especially during chanting, these things will come. Why? Because chanting is like churning of the milk ocean. The poison will come only when there is churning. So when we sit to chant, the milk ocean of our consciousness is getting churned by the holy name. And the first thing that comes out is poison. The poison of distress, the poison of anxiety, the poison of disappointment, the poison of, why did he do this? He's trying to act as if he's a good devotee. He's chanting japa. He's having his book reading club, but this is how he's behaving. So all that poison comes out. So what should we do? We should pray to Lord Shiva, who is the best devotee of the Lord. You please come and drink your share. Because Lord Shiva is adept. He's expert in drinking poison. But at the same time, we should continue to churn. If the demigods would have stopped the churning process at that time, all that they would have got is poison. So you should continue to churn, which means the chanting of the holy name. And utsahad nishchayad dhairyad. With some patience, you will see other material objects will start coming up. Airavat will come out of the churning process. Lakshmi Devi will come out of the churning process, which means you will now see a lot of material gain out of your chanting. And now if you stop your churning of the chanting process here, that's all that you will get. But if you continue to churn, the nectar at the end of Krishna Prem is there. And instead of Dhanvantari coming out and Mohini Murthy distributing it, you will see Mahaprabhu himself will come out with that pot and Nityananda Prabhu will distribute and the pot of Krishna Prem. But for that, we should continue to have patience, not act on our mind, understand intellectually. Yes, we may not realize it. It's a struggle of the mind, but no problem. We will not act. We will not criticize those Vaishnavas. We may be hurt. We will pray to Krishna. My Lord, there is some connection from past. Only a fool will think that it's Wednesday because of no reason. Well, it's Wednesday because yesterday was Tuesday and tomorrow is going to be Thursday, right? It's a continuous process. So this life is not a standalone life. There's a life behind and there's a life later. And because we are eternal souls bound up in temporary bodies, the eternal karma will act. So we will pray. We will pray to Krishna and we will continue chanting the holy name. And this life, when the reactions are coming, we don't give a reaction to those reactions. Please note, when you throw a ball to the wall, the ball is coming back, just catch it. If you try to hit it with the bat again, it will hit the wall and come back with more force. So when reactions are coming and we act on those reactions, we are creating future reactions. So when the reactions are coming, We hold it. We play cricket at that time. Not literally, but we catch those reactions and we pray to Krishna. We continue churning the milk ocean of our heart by the process of Vaishnav Seva and Nam Sankirtan. Is that okay?
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful answer, Prabhuji. There are 3 more hands up now. I'll go for the first one. Kirti, want to do?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhamma Pranams.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you mentioned, right, the only time we should give advice is if you're a spiritual senior, there's no envy in your heart, and the subordinate is willing to listen. How do we apply that principle when, say, in a Vaishnava community, you have lots of friends who are Vaishnavas and you're all at a similar level, or they will be higher, but you're friends with them? How do we apply that when you can maybe see something that is happening that is not right, or they're doing, and they might not be doing it intentionally, but do you then, do you still, you're not a spiritual superior, there is definitely no envy in the heart, and the subordinate will be willing to listen. So how do you apply those principles, to equals, I guess, and friends? And
we tell the superior at that time that I'm seeing some situations like this, Prabhuji. So maybe if you can say that in a public class without taking names, like without getting through a circumstantial description, but just making a philosophical point. If the superior in a class whom everyone will listen to, if the personality mentions, then it will be like the rain of advice on everyone's roof. That's point number 1. Point number 2, another thing we could do is, instead of giving prescriptions, we can give descriptions. This is very important. Instead of giving people direct advice that I think you should do this, you should not do this, we can say, I was hearing one class, and you can try to bind it with some scriptural story that they were mentioning how Prahlad Maharaj was like that. So I really liked it, Prabhuji, so I just thought of sharing it with you. So what's happening is, just like in Hindi, they say, Samajdar ko ishara kafi hai. If that person is intelligent, they will understand that, yes, you are describing, but also there's a prescription in that description. Does that make sense? So we don't have to take the position of I say and you listen, but we can share it in a non-confrontational manner.
Okay. Prabhuji, so to the first part where you said, you let the superior know and who may explain it, you ask that question. How does that apply to, say, small little things? Or is it those things and we should just ignore it, and if it's not big enough to bring up in that atmosphere, then just tolerate, ignore?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Srila Prabhupada did. Srila Prabhupada went straight to the hippies. There is no extent to how much Srila Prabhupada tolerated. There's absolutely no extent. Words cannot describe the tolerance that Srila Prabhupada showed. If somebody studies geriatrics, I live with doctors who are geriatricians. So they work with senior citizens as hospitalists. And they tell me that the more one ages, the natural irritability increases. The person gets irritated over small things. Therefore, you'll see our parents will crib over small things. And we kind of get sometimes angry with them. But, it's just the age. Everyone goes through an age bracket. And when we will be there, we will also be like that. Right? So the point is, when we get older, naturally we get more sentimental, more emotional. We feel like crying more. We feel more lonely. We feel more irritable. We feel that I did so much for my children don't even think about me. They're not even asking about me. They just want affection. They just want more attention. But that is the time Srila Prabhupada took on Maya, took on material nature, all by himself. Haridas Thakur did not take on material nature. Material nature came to him. And he just purified her. But Prabhupada went into the mouth of Maya Devi. He went searching and hunting for her and ripped her open for 10,000 years. Tolerating. Can't even describe what all Prabhupada went through. In the initial stages, when Prabhupada was speaking about Tilak, One devotee did not even know how to put tilak. So he wanted to put tilak, and Prabhupada had come to the temple. So he thought, before Prabhupada sees me, let me put tilak. And you know how he put tilak? He spat on his own palm, and he took a sandalwood, like a chandan stick, and started making a pulp out of his own spit, because he thought that was the easiest way to like quickly. What would you say to that? Is that a small deviation? Is that a big deviation? People smoking a cigarette in one hand and cooking for the deities with the other hand, smoking a cigarette in one hand and painting Jagannath and putting a cigarette box on Jagannath, the deity's head, taking cigarette breaks in the middle of painting. Would you call that as a small deviation or a big deviation? People not knowing which hand to eat with. Prabhupada doing the marriage ceremony and the Diksha ceremony. And Prabhupada said, for Diksha, there must be, there's a Yajna Kunda and there must be fruits around. Prabhupada said, where are the fruits? So the person went and got cut fruits. They thought Prabhupada was hungry. So they gave a bowl of cut fruits. And Prabhupada said, not like this, you give proper fruits. So they got the fruits. And the Prabhupada arranged it around the kunda. Then finally Prabhupada, during the fire sacrifice, Prabhupada said, now you offer the grains that I'm giving you. And the devotees, instead of offering it into the sacrificial fire, they thought they have to give it to Prabhupada. So there is fire here and Prabhupada is sitting here, and across the fire, they're throwing rice on Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is saying, not on me, you put it in the fire. And Prabhupada has to give the beads, he has to give the names, and they all get initiated and they are happy and they're leaving. And Prabhupada, with the old body, is sitting and cleaning up the whole Yajna Kunda, cleaning up everything. Now, will you call all this small or will you call this big? The point is, we have to tolerate. Everybody at all times will have some shortcoming. And if this is all that we look, we get good at what we look. We get good at what we practice. And everyone at all times has some or the other fault, because we are in this material world. Even if you swim in the right direction while being in the ocean, you're going to get wet. Even if a person is an expert swimmer swimming in the right direction, he ought to get wet, because that's an ocean of water. So similarly, even if we are Krishna conscious, it takes a long time to become completely perfect. So if we see big deviations, scriptural deviations of regulative principles, then we bring it up to the superior. But if there are small things, we silently pray, and with time, everything will be purified. We tolerate them because Krishna tolerates us. Krishna tolerates us. When we came into the movement, Vaishnavas tolerated us. So it's now payback time.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sometimes I may say things which may ruffle the feathers and send shivers down the spine, but please forgive me. I'm not saying it against any individual. This is not for Kirtivanta Prabhu in general. He's just...
It probably applies, Prabhu, 100%.
He's just the medium of that question, but this is for all of us. As a community, we are sitting together and we are introspecting. So, Ambarish Maharaj Prabhu, whom should we? I think there's some network issue, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. I think Sudharma Mataji and Sudharma Prabhuji are next. I think Ambarish Prabhu is frozen a little bit. I think Ambarish Prabhu is now disconnected, but...
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Can I go
Hare
ahead
Krishna.
with the question? Thank you for the very beautiful lecture, Prabhuji. I know, even though so early, you are, I think, very brisk, and we are like sleeping and listening not very attentively, I think. Please forgive us, Prabhuji. I think my question may be due to that. Probably I've not been listening properly. You said in the initially you said there were three instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? And you said one is from the to remember the pastime of Chota Haridas. And the second one you said that's to see the good qualities, not any defects.
To serve the Vaishnavas, and third is to chant the holy name.
Chant the holy name. Okay, Prabhuji. That's
Jivdaya Name Ruchi Vaishnava Sevan, Iha Chadi Dharma Nahi Suno Sanatan.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, my internet connection is very unstable here. So I'm back. I missed that question and answer, but I'll hear in the video. So next question is from Sannivas Prabhuji. Please go ahead, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice lecture, Prabhuji. I always mesmerize your lectures, sir. Prabhuji, as we hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu year after year, as we increase our getting close.
Can the volume be a little better, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. I think you're on mute now, Prabhuji. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So as we hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu year after year, we are getting so much deep, so much more understanding of how much mercy is going to given us. But when we are presenting to the people, like we can tell about Krishna, we can tell about Rama, but when we want to give Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to them, because they only see him as a saint, and then we know what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is because we are in the path working to it. So how to present to them, how much to give to them, how to give Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to them, because they are in very slow steps coming to this one. Can you explain us a bit more into the presenting?
Even if they're ready to accept that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a saint, I believe it's a very good start. It's a very good start. And ultimately it culminates in understanding that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Bhagavan. But maybe not everyone right from the beginning will be ready for that, just because they are not aware. It's easier to accept Ramachandra and Nrsingadev and Krishna because people have heard right from their childhood. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they have not heard. So it may seem like something that I have not heard before. And they may be be open to understand that he's a saint. And that's a very good beginning to start with. And we tell them the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And as they hear how the Brahmana, the Kanti Gopal Brahmana who had Gopal on his throat with a Shaligram Shila, and how he was offering, and every time he was calling out to Gopal, it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nimai who would go and eat, and he would say, "What is your problem? You're calling me, and then when I come and eat, then you're complaining." When they hear pastimes of Mahaprabhu's Mahaprakash Leela, where he took the form of Ramachandra, he took the form of Krishna Chandra, he has shown his six-handed form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And these are not anybody's opinion. These are recorded in authorized historical biographies, verified over time by so many great sadhus. So slowly but surely, they will develop their appetite, just like children. Initially, all that they want is breast milk. And that's a very good beginning. And then slowly but surely, you will see that they will be found at the Sunday feast in the local ISKCON temple, eating a full meal. But if you tell them no to the breast milk right in the beginning, then they will not even survive that point. So we have to fan the spark at the point that they are at. If they say, "I have no faith, but as he being God, but I believe he's a great saint," appreciate and say, "Wonderful. That's a very good beginning." We see the good in them, and slowly but surely, with time, Mahaprabhu, in as a needle, out as a plow. He will come in as a needle, that I'm a mere person, mere mortal, just a sadhu. And then he will become a plow, because he's the brother of the person who carries the plow, ultimately. He's Krishna himself, is the brother of Balaram who carries the plow. So with time, please present more and more Gaur Katha and Gaur Leela and Gaur Tattva and Gaura Naam, Gaura Dham, Gaura Rupa Gun, Aparadha Nahi Mani Tarite Nipun. So please give this mercy of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu to as many souls as possible. Even if they accept he's just a saint, no problem. That's a very good start. And then they will come to the point where he is the Supreme Lord. And then ultimately they'll come to the point that he's the Supreme Lord who's come to become a saint.
Krishna. Prabhuji, in this connection, I have one more doubt, Prabhuji. Like,
Yes.
we see in different sampradayas, like there are some other Mahaprabhus, like Vishnu, and things like that, and they also present the same type of story, like histories. Like they're also incarnations of Krishna. They're also coming and doing it, like especially like Vallabhacharya sampradaya and everything. So when we hear those things, and they're all happening in the same age time of 500 years around like that time. Even in South India, we can hear some of the stories like this. So when we hear this, how to differentiate to that one to this one? Do we have to tell anything to them, or just leave it what they're thinking?
Just leave it at that. Just leave it at that. We are...
if they genuinely want to know the difference, they are saying the same thing, you're also doing the same thing. How is it? What is it? Like, how can we explain to them?
See, there are multifarious expansions and incarnations possible at the same time. You can see that in the history of mankind, the best league of Vaishnavas, of Acharyas, of self-realized Mahabhagavats, compassionate, pure-hearted Vaishnavas were found 500 years ago. And everyone in this assembly knows why. Because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of our Mahaprabhu. So we don't ruffle their feathers and tell them that. But we know, yes, incarnations are possible, because when the root of all incarnations is appearing, why other incarnations and expansions and partial expansions can't come? So it's possible. No problem. But we don't go around saying we are the followers of actual Mahaprabhu. Your Vallabhacharya is not Mahaprabhu. Hitarivanshi is not Mahaprabhu. We don't do all that. Because you see, the word Mahaprabhu also has many meanings. Prabhu means master. Mahaprabhu means great master. Right? So every great saint who's a revolution, like Sripad Vallabhacharya ji and so many Vaishnavacharyas, they're all Mahaprabhus because they're great Vaishnavas. But our Mahaprabhu is not just a great saint. Prabhu means Prakrishta Rupena Bhavati Iti, he who is the cause of all creation. That is Krishna. So Krishna is Prabhu. But when he comes with the Mahabhava Swarup of Radharani, then Maha from Mahabhav and Prabhu of Krishna comes together, and our Shachinandan becomes Mahaprabhu in that conception. So in this way, there are many interpretations, and we don't go around criticizing, offending, cutting arguments. No. Be present. It could all be true. No problem. The flute can appear in one incarnation. Lalita Sakhi can appear in another incarnation. No problem. We don't get into research and seeing what... Yes, scriptural evidence is always important. But our main point is not to defeat their thought. Our main point is to attract the hearts of conditioned souls to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu by presenting the nectar. That's all. And whoever has whatever sukriti, they will go accordingly. And all of those paths are glorious. Whether they are at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Sripad Vallabhacharya ji or Nimbaditya ji or wherever they are. Everybody has their own journey and we respect them for that. But we being representatives of Sri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Mahaprabhu, we present our Mahaprabhu. And those who like it, they like it. If they don't like it, that's fine. We still like them because they still belong to Mahaprabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Kirtiwanta Prabhu, do you still have another question, or is your hand up from the past?
I do have a supplementary question to the previous answers, if that's okay.
Do you have extra time, or do you want to answer that tomorrow?
We can take if that's the last one. Sure.
Okay, fine. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I was thinking a little bit about your previous answer in terms of, tolerating the little things. Now, for someone like me who's a new devotee and I'm trying to in progress, I have in the Lower Hutt Wellington community, I only have a few senior devotees around me who can constantly guide me and give me, let me know the things that I need to improve on. Now, if with my friend devotees that I have, if they suddenly start tolerating even more than that they already are now, and I don't get any feedback as to how I'm doing something, one, will that not kind of stunt my growth as a devotee to try and develop? And two, will it not create almost a superficial relationship with my devotee friends who are now only telling me about the good things I'm doing, or only pointing those things out and completely ignoring my faults? And will that also not create almost an ego in myself to maybe think that I'm much better than I actually am as a devotee?
Well, if everybody around us start giving us honest feedback, we will lose the desire to even live. Because we all grow with appreciation. All of us grow with nourishment. We get nourished by appreciation. So it's good to feel that. But apart from that, it's the onus is on our shoulder to have one superior whom we respect with all our intelligence and we have affection with all our heart. And that superior, we can go and we can report and we can say that, Prabhuji, if you ever see any deviation, or if you see that I'm doing something wrong, please don't think twice, but please come and give me feedback. Feedback is actually a gift, and I don't have to wait for Christmas to get it. So instead of getting it from everyone around, we can have one personality, and we all should. We all do. Many of us have. So we should have one personality like that. And it's not that it's just understood. We should go and tell them that, so that they can, with all their heart, with all their affection, tell us where we are going wrong. And we shouldn't find that to be problematic. Find that to be a problem, or find that to be problematic when they point out. We should not justify at that point. But Prabhuji, the full story is like this. Because then what's happening is the ego is still coming, and at the end of the day, the ego is winning. And we are going to be in this world for a long, long time then. Sometimes we may be corrected even for something that we have not done, and that's fine. We are winning the battle because our ego is getting crushed. It doesn't always have to be fair and justice. So there are times where we have been glorified for things that we have not deserved. So sometimes it's okay to be chastised for things that we have not done. It's a good challenge. It's to tell ourselves and introspect. When I get chastised for something that I have not done, my Lord, how does my heart, how does my consciousness react to that? And if the consciousness say, Ashlishiva padaratam pinashtumam adarshanan marmahatam karotva yatha tatha va vidadhatu lampato mat prananatastu saevana para. Krishna, you can embrace me with compliments, or you can make me broken-hearted by not appearing before me, which means sometimes even getting me chastised for things that I have not done. I promise you, my Lord, lifetime after lifetime, you are my Lord. I will not change. If that is the spirit, we will make advancement. But we have to go and tell our superior that if you ever see, I want to report my sadhana to you, I want to submit myself to you, and you take charge of me. You be the surgeon and you do the surgery, and you don't have to give me the local or general anesthesia. It may hurt and it may prick, but I know at the end of the day, I will live longer on the path of bhakti with that surgery. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
I almost feel like I went through the 5 rounds of grilling interview before getting a job.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I think every time I have heard you, Prabhuji, I have always felt that you have uplifted my consciousness wherever I am. I always come out of that lecture and think that, oh, I have taken one step further. I have not taken one step further. And today as well, through your question and answers and the Vaishnava etiquette katha from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes that you have given, I think both of that have given me, I think not one step, but possibly multiple steps It's just that I have to take those steps. And if I follow on the instructions that you have given, I think that I will become a much better Vaishnava. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. And we are waiting for your tomorrow's katha as well, and wonderful question and answer sessions that will follow. So to show our gratitude, let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra for His grace Amarendra Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Hare. Before we
Thank you
conclude
very
today,
much.
I just want to drop a teaser for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Today we had Mahaprabhu's interaction with Srila Sanatana Goswami. Tomorrow we're going to have Mahaprabhu's interaction with Srila Rupa Goswami.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Jai.